You're listening to Night Dreams Radio with Gary Anderson.
And what a day today is. It's Friday. It's the 2nd. And guess what? The guest we had scheduled, I have not been able to get a hold of him. I've repeatedly tried calling him and have not got any answered from Ronald. So I just kind of wondering if maybe something happened to him or did he forget about tonight's show? Oh, that throws a real wrench in it when, you're all set up, to do a show with somebody, and now I like the topics. I have nobody to go on with. So I'm going to give the phone here to my associate. He's going to keep trying to get a hold of Ronald and see if we can get him on. Kevin, that's the top number. So anyway, last night we had a great show with Douglas Smythe, and, that your microphone was not even turned on. We had a great show last night talking about UFOs, secret bases, and the Antarctica, and Bigfoot, and all that stuff. What can I say? I really enjoyed the show last night, but two things going on. I'm still not feeling good, so maybe I'll just cut it short here and not do a show tonight. And sorry to say that. What can I say? I'm not prepared. I hate to go ahead and talk about stuff over again. So, I just don't know what to say.
Well, we don't have to talk about like certain things. We could talk about like, what do you have an idea for? We could talk about like space if you want to.
Space? Oh, maybe we got him calling. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to put some music on for a minute, and maybe we have him. So, okay, hold on.
You're
I'm going to put music on.
To Night Dreams Radio
in a second
with
there.
Gary Anderson.
So I'm going to put some music on here for a minute, and let's go do this. And you're listening to Night Dreams. This is Gary, and we do have Ronald on the phone. So we're going to bring him on right now. And boy, maybe it was my fault here. I had the wrong number or something. I was really starting to sweat there because I really didn't have nothing to say here much tonight. So, okay, Ronald, you there?
Yes, Gary, how are you? Good to hear from you. I'm glad we worked this thing out.
Yeah, I was starting to really panic there tonight, so...
Yeah, I went and checked my email, and I thought, maybe something's... I told my wife, I hope everybody's okay, because you never know what's going on, especially when it comes to ghost story time or something like that. I'm glad that you didn't get, abducted by aliens or something.
Well, after last night, maybe I did, and I still don't know about it.
Why? What happened last night?
Oh, it was just a bad joke from the show last night. We were talking about Bigfoot. We were talking about aliens. We were talking about the secret base in Antarctica from the Nazis from World War II. And we were talking about how to shave. The person I had on owns a shaving company, so we were talking about a lot of things last night.
Wow, how to shave. I personally use, razor, electric shaver for the long hair, and then for the short hairs, I use a razor.
Yeah. Lately, I haven't shaved. I'm lazy. So anyway.
You know what? I stopped shaving for a movie role. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you? I know you were with the DOA. You produce movies. You've acted and directed. So let's talk about it.
Well, I'll give you the fast version of my life. I grew up in a household. My parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was a bartender in Manhattan for a long time, and my mom and dad moved us to Florida from New York when I was a little kid, and I grew up playing baseball, and I always wanted to be a stuntman, and then I grew up and I got into the Department of Defense for a while and worked as like a counterterrorism analyst and a linguist. And then I started taking some acting classes and got into acting and writing and producing and directing. And my wife Tracy and I just put out our first action-adventure feature-length motion picture up on Amazon Prime called Hollywood and Vine. And speaking of UFOs, I'm just wrapping up doing the closed captioning for our documentary about someone close to who I've known for a long time through the baseball world, who's had a lifetime of UFO abductions, and he did a anonymous kind of interview with me, and so that's going to be pretty interesting when it comes out. So I love the entertainment business, and my wife and I were kind of devoting ourselves to it.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it. I mean, do you like directing more than acting, or do you like more acting than directing? Or
You know, I love acting. I really do. I love the whole process of blocking a scene, memorizing lines, developing the character, his physical actions, the way he thinks, the way the character speaks, where he's from. And that's what I started out doing, and I worked with a lot of good directors, especially in theater. And so now, though, I really like directing, and my wife and we're in the middle of producing our next feature film. I like directing because I can take everything I've learned as an actor and as working out in Hollywood on movie sets and all the different things I learned from different directors when I was being directed, and apply all those things to putting together a scene. Sometimes I'll get to a set and we're going to film, and I'm the director, and the setting isn't quite how it's written in the script. So I have to kind of piece together the whole scene, how it's going to flow, where we're going to shoot it, if it's a moving scene where we're going to go from one area to another area to another area, and you know, where the scene starts here and ends here, and then I'm working with the characters and the actors to kind of bring it all to life. So I've really started enjoying now more directing, but I really like both of them. But right now I'm really in the directing mode.
Well, tell us about the movie. It's on, was it YouTube or where is it at right now for people can see it?
It's on 3 different video on demand channels right now, and there's about 20 more it's going to go on. But right now it's on Amazon Prime, and it's on Pivot Share, and it's on Gumroad.com, and it's called Hollywood and Vine. It takes my wife and I, we shot it in Los Angeles, right there in downtown Hollywood, up and down Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard and Vine and that area, even out in North Hollywood over in the valley on the Hollywood Hill. We filmed a big chase scene that happens on foot from one side from out in the valley over the hill down into Hollywood, and it kind of culminates at the Hollywood and Vine train station. And I wrote the script based on one line. I wrote the script it was really going to be a whole different story, and then it kind of took on a life of its own, but it was based on these 2 people who run into each other at the Hollywood and Vine train station. One of them is going down the escalator, and the other person is going up the escalator, and the person going up the escalator says they're at the Vine and Hollywood station, and then the other person yells across, kind of like being like a bigot in a way, saying it's not Vine and Hollywood, it's Hollywood and Vine. Don't you know anything, you foreigner? Because I wanted to make the movie, I wanted to bring up a kind of racism or the way people just, judge each other. And I was going to turn these 2 people who at first started out fighting and then they turned into allies. And so it took on kind of a life of its own, but that was what the whole... I was living in Hollywood at the time I came up with the idea, and it took on a life of its own. I was just kind of daydreaming about a story, and I thought, I want to do something about just misconceptions of people.
Uh-huh.
Then I decided I had a book out at the time. It's still out. It's called The Second Coming of the Messiah. It's about this government intelligence analyst who works at the Pentagon, and he gets disenchanted with the way that the military-industrial complex is kind of, causing problems all across Earth. And I wanted to create this Messiah-type character who saves the world from war and poverty. And so I decided that this was the perfect movie to throw that character into. So, and I made it a woman. I made the Messiah kind of a female. And so she comes to Hollywood, and she winds up meeting up or, getting into a fight with this female Russian double agent who's there to help terrorists detonate a dirty nuclear bomb at the Hollywood and Vine train station.
Uh-huh.
And then these two team up, and then this female CIA agent joins the group, and then it's an action adventure on can they stop World War III from exploding at the Hollywood and Vine train station.
Oh, wow.
So that's what that... And I wanted to really showcase Hollywood, the sights and the sounds and the streets of modern-day Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard. So the movie it takes you on a tour of Hollywood, so you can see and hear what it's like right now in Hollywood.
Uh-huh. Hasn't making movies changed a lot? I used to be really heavy in, professional photography. Not so much, video, but I have noticed like the way cameras have advanced. These little handheld video cameras nowadays is actually movie quality, and it's actually, I've talked to a couple of people who have actually full-length movies actually use some of those for a lot of the scenes.
Oh yeah, you don't really need film anymore. I think the major studios right now, those guys are the ones who are using film, because Kodak and the other film companies who sell film are still there, and I think they have long-term contracts with them, and they can't just really abandon film right now. But with the way cameras work and the way editing software works, you can take digital film, you can shoot everything on, HD, digital cameras. And then when you output your movie, you can output it so it looks like it's a 35 millimeter, 24 frames per second feature film.
Oh, yeah.
As long as, and you can make it look great if you set your depth of field properly with your lenses and you color correct it the right way, you can make anything look like a feature film. So I think right now, major studios and even some of the major mini studios are using film just to keep some of those film companies in business. Otherwise, they're going to have to start doing something. They're going to have to make some kind of a change.
Well, is this
I would imagine in about a decade, film's going to be gone.
Yeah, I seen it because, besides being a professional photographer, I used to, years ago manage a group of camera stores, and I could see the film market die. And I don't know if you ever saw The Collapse of the Narrows Bridge, but it's a film that's been used from Nike for promoting their shoes. I mean, it's a well-known film of the collapse of the Narrows Bridge. And
Narrows Bridge in New York, is that in Manhattan?
No, in Tacoma, Washington. It happened in the 40s, where the bridge started swaying and it collapsed, and it was a major bridge that crossed two peninsulas. But the film and how digital is changing, and I saw this back in around late 80s. I was one of the first persons to get a hold of a digital professional camera to try it out. And I told the owner of the store, I said, give it 5 years and film cameras will slowly start fading away. Well, 5 years later, It started fading, then it faded more. And then that's when you saw a lot of the camera shops just totally disappear because they couldn't